You ever visit someone's hometown and something just feels off? That was this trip. We should have never gone. My name's Rodney. I was 22 when this happened. I had just moved to the city to work as a shoemaker in a busy suburb near Chicago. That's where I met Candid, a quiet, charming guy from a small island town off the Gulf of Mexico. We became fast friends, along with Ed and his girlfriend, Raina. The four of us were tight. Young, carefree, city life in our veins. Candid was always talking about how beautiful his hometown was, how the water was clear, the nights were quiet, and the food was to die for. He never stopped mentioning it. So when Holy Week came around and we all had some time off, he invited us to visit. Said his family would love to host us. It was perfect timing. Our boss was unusually generous, even covering part of our boat fare. I packed light, just clothes and a necklace my grandfather gave me. A silver chain with an old medallion of Saint Benedict. He said it was for protection. Just tradition, I thought. The boat ride to the island took hours. Candid was talkative as always, but something strange happened. The closer we got to the island, the warmer the pendant felt against my chest, like it was reacting to something. Then I noticed Candid seemed different. He kept a bit of distance from me. Not much, just enough to notice. Still, I brushed it off. Maybe I was just tired. The moment we docked, the townspeople stared. Not just looked, stared, as if they'd never seen outsiders before.
A sweet-looking older woman sat beside me during the boat ride. Just before we disembarked, she leaned in close and whispered, "Be careful. You might get out. But the other two, they don't carry protection."
I didn't know what she meant. I wanted to ask more, but she vanished into the crowd. The tricycle ride to Candid's home was equally strange. The driver, mid-sentence, seemed ready to warn us, until Candid looked at him. One glare, and the man shut up like his throat had been sealed. But his eyes said everything. He was terrified. Candid's family greeted us warmly, too warmly. The house was old and weather-beaten, yet the dinner table was overflowing with meat dishes and stews. His mother, a small woman with glassy eyes, stared too long at Raina. I noticed it immediately. Everyone smiled, but none of it felt right. That night I pretended to trip and placed my hand gently on Ed's head. There's an old belief my grandfather told me. If you can see something dark and someone else can't, touching their crown might let them see too. Seconds later, Ed accidentally slapped Raina's hand away from the stew.
"What the hell is that?"
It's rotten.
Candid's mom smiled, as if nothing had happened. We barely ate after that. At night, Candid offered us separate rooms, but something in his tone, too eager, too rehearsed, made me refuse. I insisted we sleep together in one room. He reluctantly agreed. Later that night, as we tried to joke around to ease the tension, Candid joined us briefly, offering drinks. We declined.
"Tomorrow night, maybe. Let us rest first. Long trip."
Candid nodded. Then before he left, he handed us small bottles of oil. "Rub this on your wrists and temples. Keeps the bugs away." We did it. We weren't stupid. And outside we heard voices. Laughter. But not human laughter. Too high-pitched. Too rhythmic. Like animals mimicking people. We knew then. We were being hunted. The next morning, Candid offered to show us the nearby river. It was hot, and a dip sounded like a good excuse to get away from the unsettling atmosphere of his home. I asked if we could do our laundry there too, and he gladly agreed. Too gladly. He even handed me a burlap sack for our clothes. What he didn't know was that I had stuffed our important things, our IDs, bus tickets, and some food, beneath the dirty laundry. I didn't plan to come back to that house. He left us by the river with 3 teenage boys as our guides. The boys were strange, almost feral. They spoke in a dialect that was close to the one my grandfather used back in his village, and I understood just enough to be horrified.
"I can't wait for dinner tonight," one boy whispered to another. "My cousin's bringing 5 this time. Candid's only brought 3. He needs to catch up. At least his girl's pregnant. That's bonus meat."
I kept my face neutral and pretended not to understand. When I asked them random questions, where the salt in the water came from, where the ocean was, they seemed irritated, like I was ruining their game. And then 3 old fishermen appeared. Except they weren't fishermen, not really. They looked like average old men, sun-darkened skin, calloused hands, straw hats. But the moment the boys saw them, they scattered like cockroaches under light.
Get in the boat now!
No questions, no hesitation. We grabbed Raina first, then Ed, and climbed in. I had the sack with our stuff slung over my shoulder. As the boat pulled away from shore, I looked back and saw them. Candid, his uncles, his cousins, all standing on the bank, their bodies unnaturally still. Then came the howling. Not dogs, not people, something in between.
Monsters don't wait for the night anymore, one of the old men said bitterly. They're starving.
Who are you? I asked.
The oldest one looked at me. You're Rodney, right? Son of Ernest Delacruz, he's my old friend. I knew he'd raised you right.
And then it clicked. This was Milagros's husband, the woman who had warned me on the boat. She had sent her own people to get us out.
Why are they doing this? Ed finally asked, his voice shaking. Why us?
The man's jaw clenched. It's the Feast of the Moon. Every holy week they gather. They're not just any shapeshifters. They're part of an old bloodline, feral, ancient. During the holy days, they believe the veil between our world and theirs is weakest. Eating human flesh gives them strength, especially flesh that's young or carrying life.
Raina curled into Ed's arms, trembling. We reached their small hut nestled in the mangroves. They smeared our necks and foreheads with bitter-smelling salve made from garlic, ash, and crushed herbs. We stayed the rest of the day, hiding, eating boiled corn and sweet potatoes, our first real meal in days. As the sun set, the old man prepared a boat for Rojas, a nearby town across the water.
We leave at dusk, he said. Tonight they'll come looking.
He wasn't wrong. As we set sail, the darkness behind us lit up with torches. Howls echoed from the jungle. The monsters had discovered we were gone. I glanced at Raina and Ed. They looked hollow, scared, but alive. I was thankful, so thankful, but the worst was still coming, because Candid wasn't done with us yet. We arrived at Rojas just before midnight. The ride had been eerily quiet. No one spoke unless necessary. The waters were calm, too calm. The old man who helped us, Antonio, led us to a small tricycle waiting by the dock. And there, standing beside it, was someone I never thought I'd see again. My grandfather. He looked older than I remembered, but his eyes, sharp, serious, and kind, hadn't changed. When he saw me step off that boat, he rushed over and hugged me like he was clinging to a ghost.
Rodney, you made it.
I didn't even have the strength to say anything. I just nodded into his shoulder. Antonio explained everything to him, how we'd nearly been served up for dinner by a family of shape-shifting flesh-eaters, how Candid wasn't just involved, he was one of them. Grandpa's face darkened.
You were marked. I warned your mother never to let you near Samar. I should have said more.
We climbed into the tricycle, which, he assured us, had been blessed and warded against dark entities. The symbols etched under the seats, the salt hidden in its cracks, and the thick chain of garlic hanging inside weren't just for show. But even that didn't feel like enough, because just as we were about to leave, another boat arrived, Candid. And he wasn't alone. His father, his uncles, 3 of his cousins, all stepping off the boat like they were coming home from church, casual, relaxed. But their eyes, they glowed faintly in the dark. When Candid saw us inside the tricycle, he froze. Then he smiled, the kind of smile that turns your stomach.
So that's how it is. You betrayed me, Rodney, after everything.
You tried to feed us to your family.
You think they were going to eat you? You were meant to be honored. Consumed under the full moon, your essence passed through our bloodline. You would have lived forever.
You're insane.
You don't understand. This wasn't about death, it was ascension.
He stepped forward, but Grandpa raised his hand and fire erupted from the tips of his fingers. The air grew thick with incense and ozone.
You step closer, boy, and you'll know what it feels like to burn inside your own skin.
The rest of Candid's family shifted uneasily, but they didn't leave.
We'll come for them. You can't protect them forever.
Then, with inhuman speed, they vanished into the trees.
We didn't wait another second. Grandpa shouted to the driver. Go.
We raced through back roads until we reached Grandpa's home in the countryside, heavily warded and surrounded by sigils etched into the dirt. He gave us protective amulets. Raina's was specially blessed to conceal her pregnancy.
They'll come tonight. They won't stop now.
He wasn't wrong. By 3 a.m. they came, howling, scraping, hissing. The house trembled as claws scratched the walls and windows. Shadows danced across the windows, faces half human, half beast peering inside. We lit protective candles. Grandpa chanted old Latin prayers mixed with ancient Visayan phrases. Antonio joined in, sprinkling salt and ash across the doorways. Then we heard it. Candid. He wasn't chanting, he wasn't howling, he was speaking to me.
Rodney, come out. You don't belong with them. You belong with us.
You killed Naldo and his pregnant wife.
He laughed. They were weak. They didn't accept the gift.
Neither will we.
Too bad. You don't get to choose anymore.
That's when it happened. The front door burst open. The wooden door exploded into splinters. They came flooding in, Candid at the front, his eyes a burning gold, mouth split into an unnatural grin. His body shifted between human and beast as if reality couldn't decide what he truly was. Behind him, his father and cousin swarmed the porch, teeth bared and claws gleaming like obsidian.
Protect the pregnant one.
He flung a fistful of ash and salt into the air and shouted words that twisted the room like a storm. The air shimmered, the floor cracked with light, and the first attacker, the cousin with the jagged grin, screamed as smoke erupted from his flesh. Candid leapt over the body and lunged at me, but Grandpa was faster. With both hands outstretched, he cast what he called a buhay na salita, the living word. The moment he spoke it, time seemed to stall. Candid froze mid-air, paralyzed, suspended like a puppet on broken strings.
You betrayed your friends. You cursed your bloodline.
I tried to elevate them. They were supposed to be part of us.
You murdered Naldo and his wife. You planned to eat Raina's child.
I was chosen. They would have thanked me.
And then he laughed, a long, shrill, inhuman sound that curdled the blood.
I should have killed you when I had the chance. You ruined everything.
No, I said quietly, you did. Grandpa uttered the final command. Candid's body burst into flames, blue, unnatural fire that didn't burn the house, only him. His screams were otherworldly. One by one his family tried to charge in, but Antonio and two other elders stood ready. They held charms, amulets, and blades forged from old silver, whispering ancient prayers. Each time one of the beasts entered the threshold, they ignited in fire. They didn't just burn, they were erased, like they never existed. The fight didn't last long, not because it was easy, but because it was precise. These weren't just old men, they were guardians, and tonight they were ready. After the last body fell, we stood among the ashes. The elders didn't let us mourn. They wrapped the remains in heavy cloth and took them into the woods where a pyre waited.
The world has old enemies. They hide in plain sight, wear faces we trust. But as long as we remember the old ways, they can't win.
By morning we were on another boat, heading back. This time not to that cursed island, but to safety.
It'll protect the baby. You're part of this now, whether you like it or not.
I nodded. I knew he was right. We returned to the city. When our boss asked what happened to Candid, I told him he got married and moved back to his hometown. No one asked again. Months passed. Raina gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Ed and I still talk about that night sometimes, but only when we're alone. We know the world is still full of things in the dark, but now we're ready. If they ever come back, we'll burn them too. If you thought this story was chilling, trust me, there's more. We share real nightmares like this every week. Subscribe now and never miss the next tale hiding in the shadows.